The verdict finally came in. I was looking back at some of the old episodes. I think it was like season 3 when a lot of this erupted, right? Just kind of take people back real quickly from the timeline perspective. So somewhere around November, mid-November, Cassie's lawsuit drops. Diddy settles it like the next day. I'm guessing he's hoping that it's a rappy rap, right? And then around in May, the tape drops. You know, the tape saw around the world in terms of his abuse of Cassie in a hotel. That was around May. And then around a couple of days later, he issues an apology. We had another episode of the BLC pod where we covered his apology. And then in September, he gets arrested and arraigned, or indicted rather, for the Frico. We also had another episode just last September. And so today, right, after all that, 8-9 months maybe, right, we're here where the verdict is finally in. He was found guilty on 2 of the charges. I believe the bringing a prostitute to the crib from across state lines to get some. Uh, he was not found guilty on the RICO, or the racketeering rather, or the sex trafficking. I believe the last thing we've heard is the judge denied him bail. I think a lot of people felt good about him getting bail, but he was denied bail, and I believe will have to be in prison or remain in jail until his sentencing, which I believe the last date was around October. But for now, I mean, the case is over. We talked about it a little bit. I think we had some kind of guesses or prognostications of what's going to occur. What are y'all thoughts, man? We finally here after this long, long journey, it feels like. What are y'all thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad it's over. It was a trial of the century. I think that this is part of a larger reckoning. I mean, we saw with R. Kelly and Bill Cosby and Russell Simmons, and now it's Diddy. It's all iconic, all influential, all black men, top of their game until the receipts come due, and then there's a reckoning. So I think that's kind of what happened. I think the feds did overreach with the racketeering charges, no doubt. Trying to paint Diddy as a mob boss was a huge mistake. It was dramatic, but I think the jury saw right through it. And that doesn't mean he's clean. I mean, I think what he was found guilty of, he was guilty of. Particularly if you look at the Mann Act. And I'll say this for like a circle back, but man, that Mann Act was insidious. That gave them the back door. And honestly, he was going down for that anyway. The way the Mann Act is written, and just as a little basis, so the Mann Act works like this. Just as a little background, right? It's called the White Slave Traffic Act. It was created to combat forced prostitution and sex trafficking, but the catch is it criminalizes any transportation of a person across state lines for any intent. Like it could be for prostitution, or it could be for any sexual activity for which the person can be charged with a criminal offense, or like if you try to do anything dirty. So you don't have to pay any money. You just have to have the intent to bring somebody over for having sex, and you're guilty of the Mann Act, or any kind of shady situation. It's called a net law because it casts a very wide net. When the government can't hit you with something, they'll hit you with that. That's what happened to Diddy. So shortly, I just think it's a warning. I think it's like a cautionary tale, right? If you're a BIPOC man, it means that your success needs to come with character. You know what I mean? You don't get to keep the crown if your kingdom is built on like coercion and NDAs and bad stuff. And to the culture, it says we need to stop confusing legacy and leadership. You know what I mean? Like if a person's not shit, it's not shit. Don't matter if they do good shit, it's still not shit. You know what I mean? And to the next generation, if whatever you build, make sure you build it with some character because people gonna remember how you built it more than remember what you built. That's how I see the Diddy trial. Long and short.
Whew. I didn't think I was going to agree with most of that because, I thought he was going to go with the power angle and how they trying to take down a powerful man and
I mean,
woo
it's nuance.
conspiracy. You know what I'm saying? So look at you, sir. Look at you.
That too.
So let me just go ahead and start off with a little bit of what I thought along the line. So first, with this split decision, I was like, so he's guilty of transporting women for prostitution or people for prostitution, but not sex trafficking. And then I realized it's because the internet viewed this as mostly consensual and transactional. And so therefore it immediately dismissed the whole sex trafficking part of the equation. Now, in the last episode, I did say that if he was going, I doubt if he's convicted on RICO or sex trafficking. And hey, it looks like I was right. But I gotta say, the women on the internet, because Tia could not be here today, I'm going to go ahead and represent the women of the internet because they had a lot to say about this reaction. Some of it I honestly believe is valid because at the end of the day, they kind of prove why women don't speak up. Because first, let's start there, okay? Right. So we watched the video footage of Diddy basically assaulting Cassie, getting aired around the world, and then we still saw him get some serious charges and walk on most of that, you know? And so it's like the system was like, hey, you can speak your truth, sis, but we still ain't gonna believe you, or maybe we will, but it's all right, you'll be okay. And so we tell women to come forward and we make them fight tooth and nail just to prove that they're not victims. Now I'm not saying Cassie's a victim because to be honest, I thought she was culpable in a lot of this myself because the minute she said no and tried to get away, that's when she became a victim. But all them years leading up before she got to that no, as far as I'm concerned, she should have been a co-conspirator almost. But once again, I'm going to represent the women on the internet. And as they were saying, they felt like unless your user is broke, unemployed, or already in jail, good luck because he ain't being convicted if he's successful. In this case, they were actually relatively surprised that a Black successful man was able to walk away with all these charges. So I feel kind of bad because at the end of the day, it did kind of feel like the women's reactions or the women's choices were more on trial than Diddy's action. And which says a lot because in a lot of cases like this, particularly domestic violence, rape, even though this was supposed to be about RICO, that tends to be what happens is where it's the victim's choices that's put on trial and whatnot. So I'm just going to say that I understand their reaction. And the last thing I'll say, because I have so much more to talk about, but I don't want to hog the stage here, so to speak. So I'm just going to say that I understand the women pain. I understand why there's a mixed reaction. I understand that they felt like, towards Jay's point, there's a difference between money and morals. Is having money greater than morals? And if so, then what does it say to us as a society? Because ultimately, Diddy had the time. He had the money to buy him time, the lawyers, the patience, and everything to go his way. That's why he didn't even call nobody. Wait, he called one person, right? And so, because he knew he was going to walk on most of this. Anyways, I'm not surprised.